I think the thing is that for me, one of the biggest challenges are we think we got it all. We don't have any experience slowing down and pausing for ourselves because we've been performing. That a lot of my work is around you're worth the pause.
That was the voice of this week's guest, Ayodele Harrison. Ayodele is an educator, facilitator, and community builder whose career spans engineering, athletics, and more than 2 decades serving young people. Today, he leads BMEsTalk, a national leadership ecosystem for Black male educators focused on brotherhood, wellness, and courageous leadership. Ayodele brings a grounded honesty to this conversation. He talks openly about introversion, overthinking, his father's influence, and the masks Black men are taught to wear in order to survive. He reflects on the tension between performance and humanity, and what it takes for Black men in education to reconnect with themselves and each other. In today's episode, we discuss 1, the mask Black male educators learn to wear and the deeper truths hidden behind them. 2, how emotional intelligence, pausing, and contemplative practice transform leadership and wellness. 3, why caring shows up differently across cultures and how teachers can communicate it with intention and authenticity. 4, what Black men need in order to feel brave, not just safe, in spaces designed for healing and growth. And 5, the impact of white supremacy, performance culture, and inherited expectations on men's ability to fully see themselves in each other. I hope you're ready for a rich conversation. Take out your notes and let's start the show. As a male educator at your school site, it can get lonely. Only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male. And just think about what this gender gap means for your male students. They experience disproportionate levels of discipline. This is a show for male educators who want to feel more understood by their community and want to create emotionally safe classrooms and schools for the next generation of male students. Welcome to unMASKing with Male Educators. Ayodele Harrison. See, and now as I say it, then I'm like doubting myself. Harrison. See, I did it. I did it just like that. I practiced right before, and then self-doubt creeped in. Let me do it again. Ayodele Harrison. So good to have you on the show. Welcome to unMASKing with Male Educators.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man. Look, would you tell folks what you want them to know about you, what is important for them to understand about your story before we jump into this conversation about our masks and about education?
Well, what to know about me? Born and raised in Seattle, son of a Nigerian immigrant. My father immigrated to the U.S. in the late 60s from Lagos, Nigeria. Also married my mom, who is from Texas, but they met in Seattle, Washington when my mom was in college and had me. I'm a son of, I have a brother. Boy, these questions are kind of weird. I should have my notes. So anyway, born and raised in Seattle. I'm a proud Howard alum, so go HBCUs. There, I studied civil engineering. And so it's interesting, there's a pathway to get to education, but my mother is a retired Seattle public school teacher. My father is an engineer and a ordained minister. He's passed away now. So there's a lot that's in me that comes with that. But right now, I am blessed to lead a community of Black men who are bold enough to believe that they can change the world and courageous enough to try and do it. And that community is called Black Male Educators Talk, or BMEsTalk. And what we're doing is really creating a leadership ecosystem for Black men in the education space, one that centers brotherhood, respect, non-judgmental learning and connection with each other, wellness, because we want to make sure that we're taking care of each other, but then also supporting each other as we elevate in the profession. So that's just a little bit about me. I can go on and on about this. I played college football, so I went to college on a football scholarship while studying engineering. A lot of different things, about me are out there. But I think what I can also say is that I've really found a love for working with young people and an even deeper love for working with adults that work with young people.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for sharing that. There's so many nuggets that are like, okay, we So we both. I studied civil engineering as well, undergrad.
That's what's
So I
up.
didn't know that. So right on. So thank you for the shift, the pivot, the tipping point that got you into the education
Well,
world,
see,
because I think
what I like to say is, so my dad, Nigerian immigrant, there's the old saying that you have four options when you're young of what you're going to study, like lawyer, doctor, engineer, or nobody, right? So it's like, so I did engineering, but then also like fell in love with teaching, but within that, I knew as a over 2 decades being a math teacher at a variety of different levels, I wanted to inspire kids and feel like they can be prepared to pursue learning in mathematics, in science, technology, and STEM. And
yeah,
so it was really about trying to make learning accessible to all students so they can say, hey, you can be an engineer. Because I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer going through school.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say I was on the lower track of schools, but took algebra in ninth grade, took pre-cal in 12th grade. So I didn't even go to college with calculus in my book bag, right? I took it when I was there and I
Mhm.
still studied engineering. I still graduated with honors and then also went on to get a master's degree in engineering. So it's like when I taught, it was like you don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer. It's about how you think, how you problem solve, how you put stuff together, how you use your resources. That's more important than necessarily having the flat out raw mathematical computational talent, because that's not necessarily what's needed. As you know, in engineering, it's the thinker, it's the problem solver, because now you have systems that actually do calculations. It's the thinkers
Yeah,
that you need to be able to do that. So yeah.
yeah. So huge. So well, thank you for sharing that, and maybe that'll help us as well jump into the next part. So we're going to share our masks, right? And so
Mhm.
um, the idea of the mask, and you get to decide as a guest who goes first. Either I go first, you want me to go first, or you want to go first, and you'll just share the front and the back. Just like what are the things that you, as an educator, let the world see? What are the things that you don't let them see on the back of the mask? So, what
Sure.
would you like to happen?
Well, I would like to jump out there and try.
Okay,
I don't. Is the only direction just to share what's on the front, then on the back, and then
yeah,
elaborate a little bit? Like, what is the direction?
yeah, it's pretty open ended. Yeah, it's like here's what's here's what I drew, here's what I wrote, and here's what's standing out to me right now of what I wrote,
So
and then
as
here's the
a as
back.
a
Yeah,
as a facilitator, I love this because it's like I was ready to be facilitated. Now you're like, well, you want to lead out? Sure, I'll lead out, not a problem. So I have it here. So I did take time, and I got a fresh sheet of printer paper to really do that. I didn't get a chance to print it out. Should I fold it in half, or we're good?
maybe you can reveal. You can just, I mean, because
Okay,
you can do both, so you can just show the front and then maybe show the back. But yeah,
okay, all right. And I should begin with the front of the mask.
yeah, maybe that's how we traditionally do it. But you may, if you feel inspired to start with the back. I mean, the back are the things you don't normally show. So if you want to jump in there, well, I trust. I'll let you
So
go for
okay,
wherever.
all right, we're gonna have fun here. I like being I love transparent facilitation and like telling people my thinking journey as I'm leading folks. And so I'll tell you a little bit of my thinking journey. So when I started off on the backside of the mask, because I think I'm sometimes closer to the things that I don't share, right? Like those are those
Mm,
slightly more intimate. And then I had to go
yeah.
on to the internet and was like, what are some values that I have? Because before I was like, I'm quiet and reserved and so on and so forth. But then I saw some things. So one of the things as an educator or three of the things that as an educator that show up is one, I'm very cooperative and team oriented in the professional space and
Mm,
working with that. Of course, I played football, so it's like if you're not a part of a team, you're not going to be able to function that well. But being able to transfer that into a professional setting is something that's positive. I'm also very outgoing and talkative. That's something that people see quite a bit of me in my space. And then I like to say that I'm also dependable and resourceful, right? So it's like if you ask me to
mm,
do something, part of that is having high integrity. I want to do it to the best of my ability. You can believe it if it's said, and I
yeah.
believe in it. I'll give that caveat. It will get done. And then I'll find a way to get it done. So being resourceful. I mean, as a teacher, it's like things break, things disappear, copier doesn't work in the morning. Also leading adults. Not every As a facilitator, the room doesn't always flow the way you think it's going to be. So you just have to be responsive and kind of have some things in your bag and be ready to go with that. So I think I consider myself very resourceful. So those are the three things: cooperative, team oriented, outgoing and talkative, and then dependable / resourceful.
Fantastic. And that's your front.
That's my front. Yeah. You want me to
All
go to the
right.
back, or you want to do the front? You do your front.
Yeah.
You do your front, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. So this is what I drew. I drew the crown and the mask there. And what I wrote today, I wrote serious, dedicated, and
Mm,
hardworking. And
mm,
I'm gonna add caring because I left that one. I've been really trying to make sure I write that one. I think sometimes that one it's all connected. Like the reason I'm so take it so serious, the reason I'm so dedicated, the reason I work so hard is because I care. I think oftentimes the care gets missed because of the intensity of the serious, dedicated, hardworking part of myself. And I think I've had to really do a lot of work. And sometimes people have to remind me, like when I'm like so in my like energy of like we got to get this stuff done, it's coming out of a place of deep caring for the mission, for the
mm-hmm,
movement,
mm-hmm,
but it can feel like it's not. It can feel like, from the outside, I've been told, I've been learning because it comes intense, right?
mm-hmm.
Like I'm a big dude. I'm a big dude. I believe in my voice. I speak clearly, loud sometimes, not, and I think sometimes it feels harsh to people, right? And it's not ever, but it's always trying to come from a caring place, but it's underneath because I don't have time to be talking about how much I care about stuff right now. We got to get the mission done, right? Yes, I
Mm,
care about every, and so I think like, um, it, because my mind is hard work is caring, like the pushing hard and dedicated is caring.
right.
And my house, it was like growing up in a house where I was the man of the house at 7 years old. No one cared about Shanti's feelings. No one cared. Like you just get the stuff done, right? Like, and it was that process. So that's the front of the mask.
Yeah, I think that aligns with a lot of the things that I've been thinking about and doing, and I also wonder for myself how safe it was for me to show how much I care. Right? So that whole we talked
Hmm.
about like telling the story, right? Where it's like if that care can run so deep that it actually can be on the edge of tears, right? Because it's like I'm there, but if tears were to come out, or if a deeper, more intense emotion were to come out, that is something that I know I've been uncomfortable with because I didn't have a connection to it. And so
Yeah.
the intensity is what I had. Like you said, a louder voice. I'm a big guy too. I'm 6'2". I'm bald headed. I got a beard. I'm over 300 pounds. I'm trying to get under 300 pounds. I've been working. That's my goal. I got 2 more months to do that. But I'm a big guy, right? In an educational setting where when I worked in California, when I worked in DC in independent schools, like it was a predominantly white female environment. And I am literally 2 times the size of everybody there, except for the kids on scholarship playing basketball. Let's just be honest. Let's call it what it is. The darker hued kids playing basketball or football or whatever, like they were my size, but nobody else was. And so not understanding and feeling safe enough to communicate how much I care, but it did come out like in one-on-one relationships, like it probably for you too, where it's like there's sometimes you do slow down and people, adults and children or students and families do get a sense of like, oh no, no, Mr. Bryan is like, no, that's he's for real. Like and
Yeah.
don't let all that fool you. It's like it's kind of like when you get to know a really good coach and they're just like, why are
Yeah.
you riding me so hard? Well, they can't tell you during practice. But like after practice, when you're just pissed and you're doing extra burpees or extra gassers or whatever you're doing, they're just like, I see something in you. I believe in you. I care. This is why I'm on you because you're different than all this other. That's when the care kind of comes out in that one-on-one. But it's harder
Yeah.
because there's a image to project at times, but then also we got goals to get. Right? And we don't have
Goals
time to
to
do that in the
get.
middle of practice or teaching or whatever that might be. So at times.
Oh man, that's that's the and yeah, yeah, right there, exactly that, like, and knowing that we all learn differently,
Right.
right? And students learn differently. And some, they could care less how much you know if they don't first know how much you care, right? Which is that phrase, right? And so
Well,
for some students,
and I would say that like what I've learned in my like working with developing teachers and understanding my style of teaching, care also and respect shows up in different ways. How well are you prepared for a class? How quality are the materials, or are you ready for a meeting? How far in advance are you able to get the agenda out? Are you able to create a sense of community right off the bat? Like there's
mm,
all these verbal ways that we build relationships and demonstrate care that I
yeah,
often think in teacher development and leadership development aren't really focused on a lot. Right? We think it's what we say when it's a lot of it is just non-verbal. Sometimes it's even how we dress coming into a meeting or an
mm,
interaction, how we carry ourselves, what language we choose to use. So there's a lot to it, and there's just different layers that we can non-verbally communicate care, but not everybody understands that, right? And so it
right.
is about trying to show people how that happens, how you're able to
Well, I think
develop.
also, we're already in the show right now, so so you imagine the care part also is like this idea that some students, like, caring looks so different from them based on how they were raised. If you're
Right.
not fussing at them, if you're not on their back, they're like, you don't even know I'm here. You don't even see me. And I'm like, I said good morning. I said, how are you doing? I said hi, right? And it's this idea like if I'm not like in your business, right? Then you think that somehow I'm not caring, and I'm doing it the way that I know how to do it the best, right? And I think sometimes what we're looking for people may not be what they know how to give us, in general, in general, and maybe more specifically, right? So,
See, but I
um,
think that's what's important in teacher development and leadership development and educator
yeah,
development is that you have to know what your style of care is also as well and do it well, but you also
yeah,
got to learn other styles of care,
that's
right?
right,
Like that effective teachers figure out, and coaches, however you want to say, they
that's
figure
right.
out what the player needs. We adjust to the people that we're acting to. And I think there
Mhm.
are some learning environments where it's only one way, right?
Right,
And when we
right.
don't show this array of like, okay, you need me to be this, you need me to be this.
Mm,
Okay, I'm
mm,
not so comfortable being this. Okay, well then that's a learning edge for you,
yeah,
right? This is why I think, there's always this tension and push and pull between public and private education. Are independent schools better
mm,
than public education? And I think we can debate that, until the cows come home. But I think when you work in an environment where the student population, in terms of their needs and how care is
mm,
communicated, is much more
yeah,
heterogeneous and not homogenous, I think you get some exceptional teachers that show up because they're able to adapt to the
that's right.
different folks that are there. And there are some environments where it's more homogeneous, where a certain style or culture is accepted
Mm,
and there's no actual growth that happens. And I think that's
that's right,
where education, teaching, leadership goes to die, because it's like
that's
you're
right.
not kind of sharpened, right? To
Yeah.
like know, how do we show up? Oh, you need me to be this. I don't know how to be this. Well, that's a part of your leadership development, because we can't just fire
Mm,
everybody. Right? And we
mm,
can't have we can't have someone not meeting the goal. So I got to do
yeah,
some work. So yeah.
that's right. Well, we're gonna come back to that because that's actually giving me. I wrote a big note here. Like, come back to this definitely in a future conversation
We got
because
a 6 hour show. I just want to tell you,
yeah,
you're in
well,
the Ayodele Harrison vortex. Like it's just because I start to go, we both kind of think alike. So it's like we'll take a hyperlink somewhere and we'll be off into another category and then come back. Where were we? So it's on you to keep the notes. So as long as you keep
oh,
the notes on where we're at, we're
it's a
good.
mind map right now. It's a mind map. It's already 3 sections over that side over there. Come on, wait. So we still supposed to be on the back of the map. We haven't even done the back yet. We have
Okay,
we like
yeah. See,
we.
listen. Okay, all right. So I'll go to the back. So what is less, I guess, seen, not often seen, is I'm an artsy, creative guy. Like I have this crown,
Mm,
and love that piece. Like I'm in the documentaries. I'm into watching wildlife footage, and just kind of I could spend a day just doing that. And I'm trying to
mm,
get to more art galleries, but there's an artsy, creative side to me that doesn't always come out in the professional setting. I'm also a believer, a Christian, and religious. I think the way my integrity, my discipline shows that, but it's not. I'm not outwardly, crosses hanging up, and Jesus loves you and things like that. Even though I do say that, I compartmentalize it to outside of the school setting, especially in public education where you have to be more balanced,
Yeah.
for that and create an inclusive environment. I think in some private schools where there is a Christianity angle of Protestant, whatever denomination, you can be more
Yeah.
open. But in public education, like, even though, like, listen, I'm down here in Atlanta, like, it's the Bible Belt, like, I don't know if we're getting in trouble. There's not a lot of separation of church and state. Like, it is just because it's so embedded in the culture here, like it's a part of
Mm,
it. And then the third thing is that I'm actually I'm introverted, and part of my introvertedness is I can overthink a lot. And I can sit here and just kind of ruminate on something and be an overthinker around that. But I've done those personality tests where it
mm,
is a balance. I'm like 60% introvert, 40% extrovert. But
yeah.
what is shown all the time is the extrovert. Like, because of what I've learned is because of my dark skin, because of my stature, like, people expect me to lead or to have something to say, right? All the time. So it's like I trained myself to be ready to speak, especially my father was an ordained minister. He had a church for many
Mm,
decades. You had to be ready to do anything. You need to sing a song, you need to pray. Like, you always have to be ready because it was a small church that we contributed to. So that kind of
mm,
that led into how I am as a professional. Even on a call like this, like, I come alive and it's like I'm here, and then as
yeah.
soon as we log off, I'm gonna go sit in my bed quietly and just kind of look at the wall for a little bit and try and get my energy back.
Hmm. I'm really glad you mentioned that. I mean, you mentioned that part about like being the son of a preacher, and my grandfather. My father wasn't around. My father died before I was born, but
I'm
my
sorry to hear that.
grandfather, my mom's dad, was here in Oakland with us. He was the preacher, and he had his own church. And I'm the grandson, right? I'm the oldest grandson. So like, son, come over here and grab this. Son, go do like, right, like whatever it took, right? And so as much as I
Whatever it
was
took.
very like shy and probably more introverted, like I had to like at the drop of a dime be like, he wants me to walk up in front of all these people and grab something. Like I don't even want to. I want to stay in my pew right here, sit down. Pretend like I'm reading this book right here. Like, and he wants me to walk all the way up there to go grab. But I know I don't have a lot of time. I can't let him call me twice. So it's like, and I'll walk up and I'll just like, okay, just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it. Grab the thing, go get him some water, bring him some water with some ice, like whatever I need to do. It was just like you go to it, right?
Right.
And that I think that's how that rearing hum comes in. And so I'll go there. I'll go there, and I may it connected to the back of mine as well. So thank you for that. And the third word hasn't come up, but the first two I wrote were worry
Mm.
and self doubt. And I think
Mm.
as a teacher, when I was an educator, like my worry usually was financial. I think I did never, coming from an engineering career to become a teacher, I didn't plan well. It wasn't like I had strategized, let me get rich and then I'll become a teacher. It was like, I'm going, right? And so without planning and strategizing, the money issues showed up pretty quick, right? Because when you take a 66% pay cut,
Oh, wow.
it's kind of hard
Wow.
to keep living how you were trying to live. And so um I think it was like, and I think maybe is since then, and I've been having this conversation too, is um like I work really hard to try and leave a legacy, right? Leave something behind. And I think sometimes because this work is what I'm leaving behind when I'm all gone, like it feels really personal. It feels more than
Mm.
personal. It feels actually it's almost it gets carefully to the place of like my worth. I know intellectually that's not shouldn't be how it is. I know intellectually, but I can't help how it feels that my worth is connected to how well I do at this mission.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
when my last breath is here on this earth, there's no human that's gonna be like it's not like my children are leaving or taking the legacy forward. It ends right there, right? And so I feel a lot of pressure to like try and figure out the next step of like taking some of the pressure off of myself. And yeah, so there's a lot of work, and I'm still working on it with that. It's my current work. Like, oh, I see why I take this so. I think I see why I get so frustrated when things are falling apart, because it's not just that little thing. it's it's generations to the future of what I'm trying to build. Anyway, so yeah, that's what's real for me on the back of the
Well,
mask.
and I will say that it's not just you. I think as men, as boys, as black boys, there is a standard of performance we've been
Mm,
expected to give. We've been, I even think of this idea of like, if you go into youth sports and you're engaged in the work, there is you always have to perform, and you always have
mm,
to like be of use to somebody, be of
mm,
use. Like that's how mentoring really is guy, like especially if you come from a single parent home, it's like you have to be of use. You're the man of the house, you are to produce this. These are the white supremacist cultural structures that we've been grown up in, and
yeah,
it's a way that we've been able to use to survive. And so it's not our value, our worth comes in what we're able to produce. I'm on social media all the time, and there are more and more um, men writing books, people writing books about this experience. I think Bell Hooks writes about it quite a bit. Like, there's a
mm,
lot of folks that are writing about this idea of like how much we're centered around performance and growth in that way. And so it's not just
mm,
you. I have that experience as well. Like, how am I valuable in this space? Me
yeah,
just being inherently human is not enough. I have to prove my worth. I have to earn my worth, right? I have to earn my place. I'll say this: I have to earn love. Like I have to do
mm,
something to get love when that's not how it
mm.
should be focused on.
Man, earn love. Yeah, yeah. Boy, oh boy.
And so one of the things that we'll this is one of the links, and you kind of okay, you're back. One of the things like when we have with this dope community of brothers that I lead,
Yeah.
we start every engagement with a letter that came out of the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective, better known as
Okay.
BEAM. They actually started in Oakland, California. There, I'm not sure if you're familiar with their work, but I'll get
Okay.
you. Yolo is I forgot his last, but Yolo is the founder of this organization Beam, and they put
Okay.
out a lot of different materials that really love on Black people. And one of the things they
Mm,
had was this letter called "Dear Black Man," and I'll read it. It's pretty short, and we
okay.
start every session with this understanding the pressure to perform either internally or externally we experience. But when
Yeah.
we come into a space, we want to invite people to a different perspective. And so, what we start off with is this letter. It says, "Dear Black man, you are
Mm,
not defined by what you can do with your body. You are not defined by the amount of money in your bank account. You have a purpose beyond always pretending to be strong for other people. You are cherished for your presence, and we are grateful you are here."
oof,
So
oof.
we center that and just pause. This is one of
Mm,
the first, like after our land acknowledgement, like when we start an experience, we then
yeah.
do this and we pause, and then we get feedback from the how does that feel, what resonates with you, so that they understand from the
Mm,
beginning. There's a different set of expectations here. All we want you to do is be and bring your full self, however much you want to bring into the space.
I love it. I love it. I'm look forward to seeing it, reading it, having it, put it on my wall. I think it's and I think that, man, dear Black man, thank you. And I look forward to connecting to that organization as well. So we're already fully in. Like we're halfway in this thing. I, this is not an interview, so where we're going is exactly where we're supposed to be. I trust that
Exactly.
that is what these conversations are about with male educators around the world. It's like what what are we thinking about? What are we talking about? What are we feeling? What's going on? What do we need support with? Where can we ask each other for support? Where are we afraid to ask for support? All the
Mm-hmm.
layers of how we show up in not only the profession but in the world, and knowing that we sometimes are exchanging one mask for another, right? We're exchanging the work mask from the family mask, and the weekend warrior mask, and the hang out with the homies mask, and the
The
blah blah,
church
yeah,
math,
the church mass Sunday
all
morning,
of that.
right?
And
All
here
the
and here's the thing. This is why I love this. And it's like, so the place I'm at is, so where am I? Like, where am I? I have been taught to construct these masks to be successful in these environments. But I'm at a space now at this time in my life where I'm going through some personal challenges where I'm just like, well, who am I? And so one of the like in a few weeks at a future conference, I'm going to be speaking on the topic of is it's called faith, family, leadership, but where are you? And it's really this idea of like the community of black men that I serve are ideally, not ideally, what we found our numbers are 35 and over. They are likely, most likely, over 75% of them are married, and almost more than 50% of them have kids. And they are of faith, right?
yeah,
Some faith. And
yeah.
so what that means is there's a commitment to a lot of people. So they have a lot of responsibilities. And and I say we take pride in those responsibilities, right? That is how we determine what success is. That's where we think our value and our worth is. And we still have, we might not be fully aware of who we are and what's meaningful to me, right? When you might ask the question, well, what brings you joy? A lot of my answers would be like supporting my kids, putting them through college, making sure my partner is well, making sure my home is good, the roof is not leaking, all these other things. And it's like, well, but those are external. What about the internal? Right? Does joy come from the momentary? Do you even have time to consider joy for yourself? Which is oftentimes for me, I didn't. And I
Yeah.
think that that was to the demise of my marriage, where it's like I did not center, because I thought, man, my mom moved in with us, we had a baby, like all these things was like I'm present for everybody, and I wasn't present for anybody, not including
Mm.
myself.
With that, with what you've experienced your personal self, what you are helping men to navigate, what you are processing in terms of like, okay, I'm building this community, helping these other men in this way. Maybe that's where we go next, right? Like how well, I mean, I've lots of places I want to think about it. Maybe we can just talk about current events, right? How does what we are seeing in the world today affect your ability to be able to do that either better, well, more efficiently? Um, Definitely what we're seeing with men and mental health, right? So, what are we seeing as some of the things that are currently happening that makes it harder to do this work, or that we can definitely see the factors of why it's important, but there's a lot of barriers to getting to that work and to making it sustainable.
Well, I think so when we talk about supporting men in elevating their emotional intelligence, having them connect to increasing self-awareness, self-management, improving their ability to understand social engagements and then navigate those social environments. I think the thing is that for me, one of the biggest challenges are we think we got it all. We think we don't have any experience slowing down and pausing for ourselves because we've been performing. That a lot of my work is around, you're worth the pause. And then I was talking about my business partner the other day. It's like, then trying to, the hardest part is convincing folks that there's an ROI on that, right? Because the return on investment in good health or less stress or less worry isn't as clear as in return on investment as if I finish this PhD, I'm going to get a bump in salary. But we all know, sadly, I can name three men in that I'm 2 degrees, at least at most 2 degrees separated from, that have passed away that are in their mid 40s, who were quote unquote successful. They have a family, they have kids, they have a PhD. All of those things are in place, yet they're not well. yet they chose to unalive themselves, or heart disease, or heart failure. Something took over. They go to the gym, they pray, like all the things that you like that are you're supposed to be doing, but there is something missing. And I think that missing is like, how connected are you to yourself? Not what you think connected to yourself is, how have you experienced it? Like I tell people, this is a little bit off top, but I tell people like, so grew up in Seattle, son of a Nigerian immigrant, family's black, Texas, all through and through. We got roots in Texas, Louisiana. We were black. My grandfather on my mother's side started the first black-owned grocery store in Seattle, or probably in this one neighborhood, but I think it was like in Seattle. Did all these things. Like we understood what it meant to be a black family in a very challenging place, right?
Yeah.
Went through school, went to Howard University, the Mecca. It's black, right? Black excellence, all those other types of things. All that to say, I really didn't realize I was black until I was in 2016, when I actually was invited to think about, what does blackness mean to me? And think about, well, who is Ayodele, right? To really start to pause and start to name some of the emotions that are happening in my body, right? And having guidance to guide it through, and not allowing, no one's telling me what I should be thinking or believing or how I should be. What they're doing is saying, sit with that, and to providing a safe space for me to sit with that and practice it, and then say, well, how was that? I don't really know. Well, here's a tool to dig a little bit deeper. Well, can't you just tell me the answer? No, I can't. Sit with it. Come back next week. And this isn't, so because part of my when I moved into teacher development, this was in 2016. I like to say I evolved out of the classroom and into teacher development at a local university. I was introduced, and I give so much honor and praise this woman, Elizabeth Hearn, who was my executive director at the time, and her team that were around these strategies and tools. And I started to have the tools to be able to pause and check in with myself. Now, again, I tell you this, born and raised, I was born probably in the middle of a church service, right? Like it was a part of me, but there was something about in 2016 when I was introduced to Emory University has this Center for Contemplative Practices there's a compassion center that's there. I should know the name, but they have this training called cognitively based compassion training, and it is a way for you, how do we elevate compassion, right? How do we extend it to more people? So there's a belief, their theory of action is that people can learn to grow their compassion, but it starts with better understanding yourself. And so in 2016, I was sat in on some CBCT sessions where I learn how to sit with myself and get a better understanding of who I am, the emotions that are running, how is my mind moving, and then going through this learning process of expanding compassion. Once I did that, I started to realize like, I'm just moving. I'm just moving and doing, and I'm really successful at it. But why? What's motivating this move? And so I think once we begin to have the tools, we can then further, I was able to come to know myself. And so when I'm creating these learning spaces, hosting retreats, running a fellowship, whatever that might be, we are using like the Dear Black Man to set the stage to say, this work is about us pausing and centering on ourselves. And it's okay to do that. And you're in a safe, non judgmental, you know what? Let me not use the word safe, because I think there's a lot to that word. I want to use that you're in a brave space, a place where you feel it's scary, but you still have the courage to move forward and explore with a group of people doing the same thing. So they're being brave. And so once they're able to do that, now I think that unlocks some leadership qualities, more of who we are, and so that we can show up more authentically in a particular space and in our leadership. And the last thing I'll say before I give you back the mic, because I like to talk quite a bit,
Yeah.
we've a lot of the guys that I work with have gone through like the Myers Briggs, the personality training, the strength finders, like all of those huge personality things and learning how you work with folks. And yet we still work in schools, in communities, and organizations, in institutions that are dysfunctional. But you got all this stuff and all this training. And I'm like, well, you know, there's got to be something else if we know all this stuff, because leadership development is not new. All the things, Simon Sinek, Tony Robbins, all these folks, Oprah, like we're taking stuff from our ancestors that our ancestors did and know. But for some reason, it's not. We're still in these dysfunctional spaces. So I believe like if we take that moment and elevate someone's emotional intelligence, we tap into another place to now they have a better sense of who they are. And all those tools they've been learning, they now know how to use them more effectively to enhance their ability to lead and achieve a goal with a group of people.
Yeah, man. No doubt. No doubt. I, hey, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm like, one of the things I've heard you say in the mix of there is even when you're trying to figure out for yourself, like, here are the ways that I am showing up. Here's the way I'm creating a space. I really like the nuance between safe and brave. And I actually, someone asked, in one of our grant applications, they were like, we're going to just change this and we're going to say this thing. And I don't really know why we're doing it. I didn't have a context, but I really like the way you named it, right? Like, is in this moment, I'm going to ask you to talk about how you're feeling. And I know that it's going to feel scary. I can't promise that everything I'm going to ask you to do in this space is just going to feel like tying your shoe, which you've done hundreds of times. It's like, tie my shoe. I can do that. That's no big deal. I'm going to ask you to talk about something that may be hard to talk about, but I'm going to ask you to come to the space and trust that we're not doing it to hurt you. We're doing it to support you. And I think the same thing with what you're doing with the men, we're trying to do with the young men. Is like at the Young Men's Conference this past weekend, young men made masks. And as they were making the mask and that part finished and we shut out words and we heard from young men that said, hey, what did you hear? What did you notice? And they were hearing it. They were hearing that they're not alone. They were hearing that other people were going through real stuff. They were hearing it. And I really wanted to go deeper, right? And we were running out of time and I was like, oh, the schedule was the schedule, right? So the schedule was built and you're like, oh, I really want them to go deeper. So I didn't do it. And as I look back, I'm like, I should have pushed them to go deeper at their tables. I should have pushed them to go one layer deeper. But I think it's a lesson, right? It's a lesson for next time. Like, follow your intuition, Ashanti, follow your gut. Even that means that we're going to be behind 5 or 10 minutes, right? But I didn't, and it's okay. But I did when I went back and read those masks on the weekend, the ones like you and I just made. I mean, hearing young men really say some really deeply meaningful things when they didn't have to, right? No one was, it's
Well,
anonymous. No
see,
one knew.
so here's the thing, right? There are very few spaces
Yeah,
where we're allowed to slow down and do that. And but when you do, it's magical. When you do, you tap into, you see somebody.
that's right.
You see somebody. And I think, you have it. So let's honor the fact that you rented out a space or reserved a space. You had a
Yeah,
team that followed the schedule. You had to get to break, all those things. So it's not always as easy in a large space like that, right? So you got to honor the fact that you got to execute. Like you can't, and then also you had kids. Kids might have to get on buses. Like there's a lot of different operative, like logistical things that you have to do to stay on time. And I think the key is also creating more spaces where there's smaller, more intimate opportunities to slow down, right? And then how, my thing is when men gather, is there someone present to have the facilitation skills to help them slow down? Because
that's right.
one of the things that I had to study over these years in doing this work is I had to study me and Black men and how what insecurities I designed my mask to help me navigate. Well, now I, as a facilitator of Black men learning spaces, wellness spaces, spaces that feel therapeutic. Now, I tell people I'm not a therapist, right? I
Mm-hmm.
tell people it's going to feel therapeutic.
That's
Well, what
right.
I've done is look at and think about, well, what are all the insecurities that I've had entering? How do I now non-verbally address them?
That's right.
To where it's like now, like, one of the examples that I give folks is this. If you have black men coming in for some sort of event, right, and they've never been there before,
Mm-hmm.
you really don't want to sit them in a circle
Yeah.
because it's very vulnerable. It's very open, right?
Yeah.
To sit in a circle. Now, you would think sitting in a circle is not that big of a deal. If they know each other, it's fine. And we as men can navigate that. But deep down inside, it's like, well, what's about to happen? And so when we begin an engagement, the first thing we do is have small groups, like small group tables. Choose your own table so there's some choice in there. Find the location in the room that makes sense. And we have a 3-day retreat. It's the second day of the retreat after we spent 6 hours together and we've bonded and we've kind of had these sharing along the ways that felt safer. Then we move into a circle. And then they're just like, hey, let's go. We in here. Right. But they had a chance to warm up to it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really, really key is that it's probably good that you did move forward because do you have enough space and time to
Yeah.
open that box and as a gift to them, help them close it. And I think that's where I
Mm,
think wellness is often weaponized, where it's like it's not. I think the intention is well meaning, but it's like when you want someone to go really deep and they don't feel brave in that space, and there's not enough time to do that, then you're just going to end up hurting them and they're going to be like, well, why should I even open up? Right. I remember I was talking to one of the guys 3 years ago who was a principal in my 10-month fellowship. And so with this fellowship, we meet, we have a retreat in the beginning and a retreat at the end in person. Then we do virtual sessions
yeah.
and, once a month. And in one of the virtual sessions, we were talking about pausing, meditation, contemplative practices. And he said that when he went to a SEL, a meditation training for teachers somewhere, they basically said, okay, well, sit down now, drop into your meditative space. Now, this was for beginners. And he was like, I have no idea what drop in means. Right. And so he was looking around feeling like, what? Huh? And it closed him off to the full breadth of the learning experience because he needed to guard himself because he wasn't familiar with those tools. But you have to
Mm,
know, like, how do I start this? How do I introduce this? What
yeah.
is my participant going to be nervous about? How do I then
Mm,
design around that? How do I use social interaction, movement, choice to then be able to support that type of learning? So we have to be really thoughtful, intentional, and careful. And then this is why I always say, like, for us, like, we design spaces for Black men, designed by Black men.
yeah.
That's the unique thing that we bring. Now,
Yeah.
that also means that I can design other space for other people because what's good for Black men is actually good for all people, right? If we're aware to be able to do this, just like what's good for, a marginalized group of people that I'm particularly serving. Let's say it's students. I was talking to some people who work in the autism space,
Yeah.
and it's like if you as a teacher are learning how to teach and deliver information and create a learning space for students with autism,
That's
that's
right.
only going to make you better for students who aren't identified as autism because it's just good teaching. It's good facilitation. That's what's really key.
I have a feeling that we're going to need a part two on this. So let me ask you this last question. Let me ask you because we let me ask you this last question, and then I think we're going to have to we didn't plan it. We didn't plan it. We come in here honoring the time, and I think we're going to have to go more. So let's do this because this last question may be a mouthful because it's
Okay.
in terms of like
I got my
how
pen to
we
take notes just in
oh,
case.
well, in terms of how we're taking care of Black men in your work, how does white supremacy and its power hungry willingness to oppress all things around us and our beliefs, our values, our norms, our standards, how does that get in the way of some men like being able to find themselves? How does it get in the way? Maybe not get in the way. How does it affect men being able to have these healthy conversations when they have been oppressed for so long that they don't even know how to break free from it?
So, well, one of the things, as we know, with white supremacy, it's meant to disconnect and kill, right? It's meant to separate people. It was designed by rich elite during colonial times to separate people, to separate black folks from white folks, black folks from black folks, white folks from white folks. Because we also know that in the time that it was the power elite that made the decision. If you were a poor white servant, you didn't have the same privileges, but white supremacy and the culture helped to convince you that you're still better than this other group, but you were still a marginalized group of folks. And so one of the things that's really hard, like in our work, is that when we spend time unpacking the power and privilege wheel, which actually takes 12 social identities, meaning race, ability, education, land ownership, language you speak, citizenship, so on and so forth. And what we're trying to do is help Black men understand areas of marginalization and also proximity to power. And so, one of the things that we really talk about is when we look at these 12 descriptors, a lot of the men that I work with in the room, 11 of the 12 descriptors, they are the closest to power. The one that there aren't is race. So, what that means is education level, land ownership, language speaking, gender, citizenship, uh, whether you're neuro, was it, uh, people say spicy, but like neurodivergent or not. And so when you take a man who is, let's say, 40 years old, is married, graduated from college, has kids, been in the profession for 10, 15 years, and you look at all those markers, right? They are actually aligned very closely with proximity to power. The one place that they don't is race. And so many a times we see our distance from rich or elite or decision maker white men as 1,000 miles away. And because of that, we believe that we are the most subject to marginalized and have a hard time understanding our privilege as successful Black men. Because 11 of the 12 markers, we're close to power. It's only the one marker, the identity, which is race, that we're not. And what that then means is because we're so focused on how far away we are from the white man, it's hard to see how our behaviors in trying to achieve the successes of the rich elite, how much we then actually inhibit the other marginalized people that are alongside of us. And so let's take specifically, we're thinking about Black women, right? Now, Black women who are accomplished have 10 of the 12 things. What are the two things they don't have in alignment? Gender and race. And so if we're not aware of that, like we have one more privilege or our gender privileges us more than that, then we're going to act as if we're not able to successfully protect and provide and work alongside the people who are experiencing other forms of marginalization. And so in our group, one of the biggest things that we're working on is for us to see what our privilege is. When we bring up the term Black male privilege, the room just gets on fire, right? It just goes on fire because they don't understand that we do have privileges as professionally successful, family driven, church oriented Black men. And we have to understand the privileges that we have and then be able to wield them, yield them, and shield them to protect, provide, and support the other marginalized folks, more particularly our Black women that we're supporting. So those are things that we're like that gets in the way because we're so focused on what we don't have, right? We are actually impeding and I think unintentionally or unknowingly hurting some of the people we love the most because we don't understand the privileged position we stand in. And I'll stop there.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's where we're going to pick up part two. That's where we're going to pick up part two, because I think that is exactly what I think a lot of our young men need to have conversations about in our schools, and definitely with our schools having a lack of men as educators, and definitely a very few black male educators. They don't get to have these conversations in a healthy way. They got to hear some teacher, professor, whoever, hopefully who care about black people, tell them a story about what they have defined as the rules and the way it works, and knowing that a lot of times it's uncaring, unloving. It's sometimes a lot of lies. And as a young person trying to be like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. And then the teacher's like, well, that's what it says. So you write what I wrote, and you better write it back to me in the essay the way I said it, or you're going to get marked down, right? And become subjective, right? So listen, Ayodele, listen, we got more to talk about in this episode. We've come to the end of it, but you and I, we're going to pick up a part two real soon. And I'm excited about the things that you're working on. I'm excited about the work that you're doing to serve males, and definitely the ones and the educators you're serving. Thank you for the work. Is there any way, how can people follow you, find you? How can they learn about what you're creating out in the world? If they're interested in getting more information, tell folks how they can find you so we can put that in the show notes. And I'm so grateful for you being here with us.
Sure. Well, one of the best ways to directly connect with me is through my LinkedIn page. You can just go through Ayodele Harrison on LinkedIn. That's from the professional setting. In terms of learning about our organization, Black Men Educators Talk, you can go to BMEsTalk.com. All the information about our work, how to stay connected. We have learning leadership circles. We got a membership platform. There's a lot of different ways that we're engaging men across the educational ecosystem with finding brotherhood, a space that centers respect and leadership. So those are the two ways that you can get connected with me.
Fantastic. And we'll put those links in the show notes, and we will be in touch. We will be in touch soon, folks.
Can I share one more thing?
Please
And
do.
also, this is the crown. If you like this crown in the show notes, I'll show you where you can actually put it, because we call this an affirmation crown. And so we have actually a kit that we help young men, old men, whoever that might be, boys, girls, whatever, build affirmation crowns. And so that's also, I'll leave that with you so people can find that and begin to create their own crowns.
Let's go. I'm gonna make one. Our next episode, I'm gonna have one made, and we're gonna.
I'm gonna send it to you.
All right, let's go, folks. Ayodele and I, we share our masks here publicly, but you can share yours anonymously. You don't have to share it publicly. You can go to millionmask.org and make a mask, and maybe you will be comforted to invite a friend, and then you all can discuss those masks. Millionmask.org. Ayodele, thank you for being a part of this show today. So good to have you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.